Am I the asshole for freaking out at my friends after they implied that my husband was a predator? Me, 27 female, and my husband, 29 male, have been together for 10 years and married for 6. He's the love of my life. When we got together, he moved in with me and my family because I lived with my parents at the time in a very expensive city. I have 3 younger siblings, 16 female, 14 male, and 12 female. For all their 14th birthdays, I've always said that I would take them on a trip. We took my sister on a trip for her 14th birthday, and now at the end of this month, we're taking my little brother. My husband and my brother get along better than anyone. Neither of them have a brother. My husband has a sister, and my brother is the only boy out of 6 of us. So they gravitate towards each other, and it's incredibly sweet to see. It's like they were meant to be brothers. Last night, I was hanging out with a few of my friends, and I was talking about how we were planning on taking my brother on a trip, and I joked about how I would be third-wheeling the entire time because they get along so well. A few of my friends laughed, but one of them gave me a weird look. She said that sounded really weird and inappropriate if my husband is giving my younger brother more attention than me. I said no, it wasn't like that at all. They just get along well and it was just a joke. Said friend then said that it was inappropriate that my almost 30-year-old husband is so close with my brother who is a minor, and said that she wouldn't be surprised if it was like a grooming situation and I am blind to it. I freaked the hell out, I'm not gonna lie. I yelled at her, how dare she imply anything like that about my husband, who she has met and gets along with, and she's the pervert if she thinks my husband, who is the only boy, bonding with my younger brother, who is the only boy, is inappropriate. I left then and went home, and since then the group chat has been blowing up with people taking sides, either agreeing that it is kinda weird, and others saying that she was way out of line and needs to get over herself. I haven't told my husband because I don't want him to feel weird, but I'm starting to feel bad about how I handled it and thinking that I overreacted and should have just left. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Better Day says, "Lol, what the hell? Absolutely not the asshole. I would have lost my mind if I was in your position. That's like someone telling me that my boyfriend getting along so well and bonding with my nephew is creepy. No, bish, you're creepy for taking a brotherly/friendly bond and immediately assuming it's sexual. Barf." I completely agree. Also, it makes me wonder how messed up your friend's life is. Opie needs to cut off this friendship and tell her husband. Imagine finding out your wife's friends think that you're a pedo. It would be a betrayal if he wasn't kept in the loop here. If he finds out later, he might think his wife was complicit. Cut the opinionated weirdo out completely, leave any social situation when she arrives, and certainly don't let her around your siblings. What kind of person is so devoid of meaningful personal friendships that the idea of a kid having another male role model automatically makes them think abuse opportunity? Something is actually wrong with her. It really pisses me off when people try to make things that clearly aren't sexual, and then act like you're the weird one when they're the ones projecting their trauma onto people. Not everything is sexual or even needs to be viewed that way. Someone tried to tell me that it was weird that I change my daughter's diaper because I'm a man and I'm taking her innocence. Like, what the fuck are you going on about, you freaky ass? Not the asshole. It's nice to hear that your family likes each other. I wish I had that in my family growing up. Yeah, I think projection is a hell of a drug in this case. But I think it goes a little bit beyond that. I think this person is manufacturing trauma. People really just be making shit up, and then they say it enough times like it's the truth. That woman is genuinely out here trying to tear apart an innocent man's life. And for what? What does she get out of it? Does she feel superior doing this to him? Genuine, disgusting, weirdo behavior. You're not the asshole at all for freaking out at your friend. Where did they even get this notion that that was happening? What is wrong with them? I would do exactly the same as you did in this situation, and I don't blame you for what you've done, and I don't think you're wrong. And now, on to the update. I did tell him because I wanted him to 1. Know why I was so pissed off all day, and 2. Hear it from me in case it becomes a bigger thing. He was obviously hurt. I told him he did nothing wrong and that it was her who was nasty. I ended up sending a text in the group chat and blocking everyone who made a case in defense of her. I refuse to allow some stupid "see you next Tuesday" to ruin a beautiful friendship between soul brothers. Our next post is by user Tiny Bird's Nest, titled, "Friend having wedding day before mine and kept relationship hidden for a whole year. What do I do?" So I'm getting married in a few weeks. About a month ago, one of my best friends who I've known since college and have kept in regular contact with dropped the bomb that she was getting married. I didn't even know that she was seeing anyone. She then drops the bomb that she's marrying a guy in our friend group and that her wedding is going to have to be the day before mine because her father-in-law can't get time off work at any other time that month, and essentially gave a few other half-assed reasons about why other weekends weren't possible. One weekend will be a few days before her period starts, so she'll be bloated. The other, she's on her period. The other is Valentine's weekend, and that's cringy. The other is too close to Ramadan, so she can't go on her honeymoon straight away. Some backstory about the person she's marrying. She's someone that we always thought she had a thing, but she'd always deny it and say she saw him like a brother. We used to argue a bit over her prioritizing him over me back in college, especially because this guy and I didn't really get on much, and her and I were so close. E.g., me and her had brunch plans once and she spent the whole time texting him. After graduating though, I feel like we all matured and put differences behind us to the point where her husband-to-be was actually invited to my wedding as my friend. My knee-jerk reaction to her telling me that she was engaged was crying tears of joy for her. I truly was happy for her, but when I went home to think about it, I felt really icky. All year since I've been wedding planning, she's been asking me really specific questions about my planning process. She complained to me that as my best friend, she didn't feel involved enough in my planning process and said she wanted to come dress shopping with me, which I invited her to because of her expressing this, but then for her to turn around and tell me that she's been dating this guy on and off for a year, whilst also keeping it secret, makes her feeling left out of my stuff come across as so hypocritical. And then there's the question of why the rush, since she's known him for a decade, and why specifically my wedding weekend, when I sent out my save the dates back in March, so she's had so much time to plan and leave some time in between. It's not about me not having all the attention on me, it's just how can she expect me to be fully present at her wedding, and how selfish she must be to expect me to have to fit her into an already stressful weekend for me. When I told her this, she doubled down on that weekend being the only one available, and that she specifically chose that one because she knew that I'd be available since I'd booked a few days off from work before the wedding, and that she needed me at her wedding. She said I would embarrass her around her future in-laws since she made such a point of needing to pick a date that I could attend, even though I had no clue that she was seeing him, nor did she check if the day was a good fit for me. I then also expressed how upset I was that she kept the relationship hidden from me, to which she said she thought that I would cut her off because of my history not getting on with this guy. Again, we all moved past that stuff years ago and are a far cry from the kids that we were then when we all met back in freshman year. When I told her that I didn't think I could make her wedding, she was so upset that she cried and said she never thought that I'd do that to her and skip her wedding. She's been telling other friends in the friend group that I'm coming to the wedding when they've asked if that date is doable for me. We haven't spoken since my conversation about how upset I was with her a month ago. I'm not trying to be a bridezilla, and I know people are entitled to be private. My issue is that she should have extended that privacy with me and not asked so many questions about my life, knowing she was being so tight-lipped with hers. This is where I now need advice. I feel so bitter and like the whole friendship was a lie. I can't make it to her wedding, and honestly, having her at mine feels disingenuous. She's been telling friends that she is still coming to mine. Is it rude for me to not go to her wedding? Should I go to her wedding since this is a decade-long friendship? Part of me wants to disinvite her and her husband-to-be from my wedding because of the lies. Is that rude? Is there a polite way to disinvite someone from your wedding without coming across like an absolute villain? Thank you for reading up to here if you have. In the comments, Someone asks, when did this friend send out wedding invitations that you just found out and she's expecting you to attend? Sounds very last minute on her part. And OP replies, so from what I've heard from the grapevine, she's only just found a venue and no invitations have gone out yet. She's been insisting that officially the engagement and knowing they were getting married in November, which is why nothing had been booked. It all just seems so wishy-washy to me. Someone else says, I just have to add a totally instant gut reaction to this situation. Your quote-unquote friend was siphoning off all of your wedding planning to make hers easier. She deliberately planned the day before yours to cover that fact up. Hers is the earlier wedding, therefore you copied her, in her mind anyway. I'm very sorry that you're going through this, but this is not a friend. Grieve the loss of what you thought you had and move on with your life. No way you should bother to attend her wedding. She knows it isn't possible for you to go the day before your own wedding. She planned that. But I would formally revoke her invitation to your wedding. Best of luck to you. Hugs from an internet nana. OP replies, that's what I'm thinking too. Before all of this, she kept on saying how easy wedding planning seemed to be going for me. It is not easy at all. I'm just good at hiding it and am very organized. And how I'd thought of things that she would never have even known was a thing. In terms of disinviting and the cultural impact, it's very split down the middle with opinions, so I'm really torn. Thank you for the hugs. I really appreciate it. This has really helped me feel like I'm not being unreasonable or a bridezilla. Another commenter says, quite simply, she's a terrible friend. Here's the gist of what you wrote. 1. You guys are allegedly close, yet she didn't tell you about her year-long relationship. 2. She's chosen to inconvenience you in your own wedding weekend, assuming you'd be available the day before your own wedding, after she hid her relationship from you. 3. She's lying to everyone about you attending her wedding. 4. She hasn't shared any details about her own wedding, despite making you feel guilty about not including her in your own wedding planning. And 5. You never even really liked her husband. If she thought you'd cut her off for dating this man, why would she think you'd be okay not cutting her off for marrying him? She seems the kind of friend who wants to know all of your business without sharing anything from her own life. Honestly, not the kind of company you'd want to keep. And OP says, heavy on the last point. I have so many friends who are private people and don't speak on many things until they are set in stone. But at the same time, they follow a don't ask, don't tell policy, so it doesn't bother me at all. And I completely agree about the worry of me cutting her off. I said this to her and she really didn't have anything to say in response. I was over all of that stuff anyway. I invited him to the wedding because I'd gotten over my dislike of him these last few years, but apparently she has selective memory and only wants to believe the things that suit her narrative. Someone asks, how would she know that you got over your dislike of her fiancé? OP says, she should have known that I moved past it because we all hang out as a group a few times a year, and her husband-to-be received an invite to my wedding. My issue is her getting upset with me for not being involved in the wedding planning, which comes across as hypocritical. But you're right. I've learned I should be more tight-lipped about certain things now, I guess. And one last thought from OP. Trust me, there are so many holes that I'm curious about too in her story, and a lot else that I didn't put in myself. In terms of how busy I'll be the day before my wedding, I'll be putting together my wedding favors with the girls in the family in the days leading up to the wedding. We'll be doing airport runs up to the day before, as a lot of family will be traveling in. Some from 20 plus hours away, and we live close to 3 major airports, so it's all hands on deck. And then honestly, I was hoping that I'd get a nice early night in to relax for once because I've had such a busy year. I'll be combining my henna event with the reception on the day of the wedding because I've already had 2 events and have a Western-style bridal shower the weekend before, so wanted to cut down on events. And now onto the update, 1.5 months later. A few people in the original post were asking about rehearsal dinners and all of that stuff. I'm Middle Eastern, and we don't really do that in our culture. Some people also said that I needed to get over myself, and that I don't own the whole weekend, which is true. I don't. My issue was the lying and also the expectation of me to drive a total of 5 hours, 2.5 hours there and back, the day before my wedding, and to attend another when I had so many things to finalize. I also just needed to vent. Being lied to and having something that felt so calculated happen in what I thought was one of my closest friendships is strange. Oh, and I don't think that it was a shotgun wedding, which a lot of people were suggesting, but anyway, I had my wedding. It was perfect, and I wouldn't change a thing. I didn't go to her wedding. I genuinely didn't have time. I did see some posted videos of her wedding. She did not copy mine, which a lot of people were worried about, considering that she had been asking me a lot about my prep. I'll give her her flowers though. Her wedding was gorgeous, but definitely not a 2-month planned wedding like she was making it out it was to me. In the end, she ended up coming to my wedding about 3 hours late. I was too busy being in my own newly married bubble to notice her or anything, but I did get feedback from people who were sat at her table. Like people said she would in my original post, she spent the whole time talking about her wedding. In our culture, the bride receives a heavy piece of gold jewelry at her wedding. She made a show of having her new husband take her piece of jewelry out of her bag and putting it on her at the table just after my husband and I, feels so nice saying that, did our outfit change. She was also showing off other pieces of jewelry that she received, making a point to emphasize that she received real sapphires and real diamonds. Her and her husband also spent the whole time texting each other, which means they were probably saying not very nice things that they didn't want our mutual friends overhearing. And she also frequently would turn to him and say, "Don't worry, we're leaving soon." They were also packing on the PDA with neck kisses. She also then cried to my mum and brother about how she doesn't understand why I've not been talking to her and how I've been so cold to her. This wasn't true. I had only told her how much her actions and lies had hurt me, and to be honest, she was the one who didn't respond to my last message. My mum, being the classic mum she is, brought her to me and tried to make us hug it out. We had this very awkward exchange caught on camera. My mum did tell my friend that she shouldn't have lied to me for a whole year though, so it's nice to know that she had my back even if she pulled a typical mum move, trying to make everyone happy. Our mutual friends are all on my side. No one really thinks that she's in the right. Most of them didn't go to the wedding. With the invites being so last minute and her wedding being on a weekday, a lot of people couldn't take the time off for childcare. No one else knew about the wedding, which is crazy. I do believe that her truth is that she doesn't think that she's done anything wrong, and she really does think that she considered me and my situation in her wedding planning. Unfortunately, I think it's one of those friendships where we no longer really align, and I have taken a step back and distanced myself from her. I do appreciate that she came to my wedding, however, I think she did it to make a point more than out of the goodness of her heart and respect for our friendship, considering what she pulled. In the comments, Transportation Clean says, "Sorry, did anyone else catch the on and off for a year? You're saying that in that year, they had split and then got back together, and they're basically having a shotgun wedding? Sounds romantic. Anyways, wish the best to the happy couple," being OP and the husband. It very much reads like a high school relationship where one of them declares the relationship is over every time they have a fight. That is some vile lady, and OP should not be friends with her. That was planned, like a revenge thing. I guess that friend's husband plays a big part in it. It really feels like the friend was giggling to herself like, haha, this'll show OP, and now they'll all pay, ahahaha, and doesn't realize that everyone thinks she's weird, cringe, and they're all just confused by her at this point. Reeks of someone who hasn't grown up, but everyone else has. Kind of like a person turning up to a wedding wearing white. They think everyone will be talking about how good they look, oh, so much better than the bride, and instead, everyone is staring in embarrassment at the Fruit Loop who is insane enough to think anyone would approve this choice. Yeah, I'm with the other commenters. I think OP needs to nip this friendship in the bud sooner than later. She sounds like a lost cause, and I would not waste my time on her any longer. Good riddance to bad trash. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Lilyfly, and it's titled, My 24 female, child's 5 male, grandmother suddenly turned up in my life again. So when I had just turned 19, I unexpectedly found out that I was pregnant with my then boyfriend's baby. I had just turned 19, and he was a bit more than a year younger than me. Being 17 at that time, and just finishing high school, I didn't want to destroy his life, and I was set on going to university in Europe. So when I told him and his family, I also told them that they'd never have the chance to see me or my baby ever, as I'll be leaving the country and don't want to destroy my boyfriend's future. My then boyfriend and his family agreed. His mother and grandmother never really liked me because my family was on the other side of the political spectrum. My family supported me through all of this, but my then boyfriend and I never talked again. I had my beautiful boy at the end of 2019, and he was God's gift for me, even though he was never planned. I still went to university, wherein I finished my medical degree. I never heard anything of my son's dad or his family. I moved back to my family just a few weeks ago, as I had missed them terribly, and wanted them to be more involved in my son's life as well. That's where my son's paternal grandmother plays a role, as she suddenly turned up at my front door a few days ago and demanded that my son move in with them. I obviously refused and reminded her that we agreed on never seeing each other again. Turns out that her daughter, my baby daddy's oldest sister, lost her baby, and that's where they suddenly remembered that I had been pregnant. They are now constantly harassing me with messages and calls. They, as in my baby daddy's sister and his mother, but I've heard nothing of my baby daddy yet. What am I supposed to do in a situation like this? Edit, because there seems to be some confusion, I didn't finish my degree in under 4 years. I wish. I was 5 months pregnant when I moved away for university and finished just a few weeks ago. My son is turning 6 this year, so to give you a proper timeline, it took me nearly 5.5 years to finish my degree, and I never did the foundation program. I don't know why my degree is a part of the discussion here. Another edit, getting a bit tired of people telling me that I didn't get a degree. I studied in the UK, not the US. Yes, medical school takes 8 years in the US, but if you take half a second to Google, you'd notice that the medical school in the UK is much shorter. Thank you. In the comments, Cassowary says, if they want access to your son, they'll need to go through the courts. Talk to a lawyer about filing harassment charges and getting a restraining order. Is your ex on the birth certificate? I was wondering about that as well. She should also return any gifts the family would try to leave at the doorstep or deliver, because they'll probably use that to try to establish familial relations to wedge themselves in her child's life. Mean Yogurt says, in addition to calling the police and talking to an attorney, I suggest to make sure to confer with school and creche or whatever your son is attending to never release him to anyone except for you or your parents, so these strangers won't get to pick him up from anywhere. I am very sorry that you're going through this. Be very, very careful. Some people out there are not exactly sane. Yeah, this sounds like something that a lawyer needs to look at, in all honesty. Reddit can give you all the advice in the world for a situation like this, but a lawyer will be your best friend. What are you supposed to do in a situation like this? Whatever the lawyer says. Good luck. And now, onto the update, 5 days later. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your opinions and advice. I read all of it and decided to proceed with caution as I got scared for my son's safety. So yeah, here's a small update. On Tuesday, I contacted my ex-boyfriend about his mother's and sister's behavior. He was absolutely taken aback as he hadn't known any of this and had no idea that I was even back in the country. Both of us were a bit unsure of what to do next, but decided to meet up the following day to talk about it, and as many of you advised, to let him meet our son. He asked for a picture of him, and when I sent him one, I could hear him burst into tears on our call, and it really hurt me to know how much this impacted him. He then told me how he was pressured into not talking to me, as his mum threatened to disown him if he did. He was scared to lose his family's support and said that he would be unable to fund college otherwise. I understood his perspective and told him that we were both young and naive and didn't really know any better. He vowed that he would care for both me and my son, but it's honestly too early to figure out whether that's true or not. but we seem to get along just as well as we did when we were still a couple. He promised to talk to his mother and sister, and also mentioned that I should consider filing a report, which I'm still unsure about, but am considering doing. He met my son yesterday, and it went about as well as it could go. Seeing him made me all emotional as well, and the moment we saw each other, we both started crying. It was a wonderful day that we all got to spend together, and it honestly made me think of what life could be if we could be a proper family. My son absolutely admires him, and after we went home, he asked me if Dad can come live with us. I honestly started crying again and called my ex the same evening, asking him to meet up again soon. We will see where this is heading, but for now, his mother and sister have left me and my son alone, no calls, nothing. Any idea if I should still press charges, and how I should go forward with my son and his dad so I overwhelm neither of them? In the comments, Jellico Alpha says, I would advise you to speak to a child psychologist about what are the best steps to incorporate your child's father back into his life. I think you should also speak to an attorney who deals in situations like this, because if your ex wants back into your child's life, then at some point he will inquire about gaining some partial custody. So you need to be prepared and not be caught off guard or pressured. The child's father advised her to file a police report. He knows his family better than anyone. She should listen to him and file the police report first. I think the ex is right. File a report here and seek legal advice. Warn schools and ensure that she is kept away. Don't get swept up in emotion either. You and your ex both need to be careful. Counseling as above, but get legal advice on rights, etc., and get it drawn up. The last thing you need is someone who hasn't been involved until now from preventing you from going back abroad or getting a passport and traveling without your permission. Proceed with caution. You don't know this man. You knew him when he was basically still a child. That man in front of you isn't the child that you knew 6 years ago. On that note, I wouldn't be inviting him to stay in your home, and I wouldn't be thinking about letting him take care of you and the baby. There are so many red flags between this update and the original story that you could knit a jumper for each member of your country's local army base. I get that it can be exciting and almost a relief when you are faced with something that looks like it could possibly be the answer to your current woes, but you are a doctor. You are sensible. Surely you realize that you've probably been led right into this situation on purpose. His mother and grandmother, sister as well if I remember correctly, were all harassing you, demanding to see your son, and demanding that you let your ex live with you. You then call the ex, he acts surprised, like he didn't know they were doing that. I mean, come on now, let's be real here. Of course he knew. And now you are considering doing exactly what they wanted from you. I know I'm likely one of a minority here because everyone wants a happy ending, especially when kids are involved, but this whole thing smells like a trap to me. If I'm wrong, then great, I'm glad. But if I'm not, then you are walking into a lifetime of misery, abuse, and endless court cases. And OP replies, oh God, honestly, I haven't even considered this scenario up until now. Thank you for the advice. And Red for the Win replies, he's advising you to file a police report. He knows something nefarious, or at least suspects it, of his family. Regardless of how you proceed in anything else, file that police report immediately. There's a lot more that I could read here, and there's people poking holes in it as well when it comes to that guy's advice. You know, like Sorry I Guess here says, if this were the case, why would he be encouraging her to file a police report against the mother and sister? Your take, while appropriately cautious, doesn't make any rational sense. Yes, but it seems to me that this is someone that has experienced a very similar situation to this and is just urging them to use some common sense. Like I said before, go talk to a lawyer, go, get a lawyer's advice on this. A family lawyer will do you wonders. A lot of these people giving advice are survivors of horrifically abusive situations, and it is worth listening to them. I just think it's really unhinged that that family did not care about that baby at all until one of their own kids had died. This seems like a very appropriate situation to protect yourself because who knows how those people are going to act, and you want the full force of the law on your side, absolutely. Those people seem unhinged to me. Please come back with more updates, Soapy. I would love to know how this situation resolves, but that is all we have for now. So thank you for your story that you're sharing with us. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.